Enough talking. Let's get to work. 2015 Dodge Charger. We're doing a bumper cover on here. As you can see over here, it was wrecked. And this bumper is from, or bumper cover is from Fit Parts. And it came wrapped up in a roll. And the customer described it as a cinnamon roll, which I think is accurate. And we're putting some headlights on it. But anyways, this is just about this bumper cover. You're gonna have some serious issues trying to unroll it if you're doing it in the cold. We're outside, it's probably like 40 degrees out here, and just nothing happened. They say to let it sit in the sun and stuff, so that I think that would work. But as you can see, it's still super warped, and I've been out here with the heat gun took it off. Here's the old one. As you can see, all those inner plastic pieces need to be swapped over. So we got screws holding in these down here, little bolts, screws, whatever. There's a couple spots where it's secured here and here. And this bumper cover, this actually covers the real bumper. Which this is what I'm talking about. This is that actually absorbs the impact. We got a couple clips there. Take those out. And we got some clips here for this. Hopefully it forces that plastic into place once we swap everything over. But let's see how this works out. Pulled a few of these bolts or screws out here. These are 7mm bolts, and I just pulled those out the bottom here. So all this plastic still needs to come off. And I'm looking here, we got a couple things going on, but one thing I want to point out before I start to proceed is if you look right here, there's a rivet. It's a plastic rivet. And there's one on the other side, and then there's one right here too. So I don't know how this is going to go back, how it's going to stay, how well it's going to stay. I might have to use some zip ties to keep it tight while I get it in place, and then bolt it in, because these plastic pieces are important because that's where it bolts in. So it tucks under the plastic of that plastic. So this outer plastic, you can see the difference because it's white and black here, but this piece is going to tuck into that plastic, this inner piece. This comes off in sections, so I took those off. Then I'm going to take these out here. There's a 7mm here and another one on the other side. Once I pop these off, then this comes out. Then I can get to this grill. Then I can get to this. It comes out in layers. So I guess this might be the first layer. This is wrecked, so I'm kind of on one side. I'm not doing as much of the work here, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So look out for this rivet, that rivet. And that's the only ones I see right now. But I'm going to drill those out. And I just got a little, this thing here that I keep with me. I'm going to use my impact gun and try to drill it out real quick. I mean, that's my emergency rivet driller. So let's do that and see what happens. I'm going to try to get all these pieces onto this other piece. I'm running out of daylight. Alright, I got the grill out. This is kind of a pain. So whatever you do, don't start pulling up, popping on these clips here, because these clips clip to this other piece that essentially is how this mounts back in there. So you can see here, there are actually two separate pieces here. But so I started prying this, thinking I'm going to pull this away from this other piece, but if you look, there's a bunch of small holes here, and then here's where the grill was. So it goes along here. And the same thing here. So that's what you need to break loose to get that grill out of there. So don't pry on the little extra stuff. And once you get one side loose, you can start pulling on it and put a little pressure back on the opposite side. Just be careful, because you don't want to break this if you're swapping it to a new bumper. So you're not worried about this. So if you have to, you could break these tabs on the old one. All right. Sorry, my nose is running. So if you have to, you break these tabs. So I kind of broke a couple here, but once I got a couple loose here, I just pulled it loose and it just kind of popped out. More rivets I found. One here and then one on the other end. So that's up at the top. So I started drilling this one out. I think I got it. So you can see I drilled this one out over here. This plastic head in the center there. It was here. So I drilled it out. That was just my sample because this was already broke. So hopefully this goes back together okay. I got a couple self-tapping screws that I might need to use, but it's going to fit on there in a very tight way. So I don't know that I'll have room to keep those in, so I really don't know what I'm going to do. I'm assuming that's why they use the rivets, but it could just be so that they can snap it all in there quick and get it done quickly. And you know, I may have to just hold those pieces in place while I thread the bolt. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to drill this other one out and drill these other rivets. Now I'm going for this cowl, or whatever you want to call it. I guess you can call it a cowl. I don't know. The point I'm making is I'm going after this now because this really helps secure everything in as you're bolting it down. So if I can get this in, maybe it'll be easier to get this, because I still got to pull this off here. So this is our thing. We drilled this out here, drilled that there, and then drilled it here. So that's kind of, it should be ready to pull out. So see, it's loose there. So it should kind of pop out. I just haven't messed with it yet. So I'm going to start with this cowl here, and you can see the same thing going on here with these tabs, these white tabs. Well, my finger's not in it, but I was still showing you tabs anyways. But the white tabs are what we're after here. So this stuff here is on the other bumper. I don't know what that you call this here, but that one's on the new one. That's the only thing on there. And then you got to put this other piece down here, which it looks like it bolts in here, a couple bolts there, and I pulled a bolt out there. There's a couple smaller bolts. These are all the 7mm guys. This redirects air, so I think this is maybe kind of important to have put back into place. The other side's missing, so I can't put it on. It is what it is. I'm going to get it put in place in the best way possible. So however it looks, you know what we're starting with. It's pretty wrecked, and there should be a lot of other components we're replacing, but this is basically just replacing the cover. So let me get this thing off of here. Look here. I pulled this off. You can see there's still a rivet in there. So you got to make sure those rivets are drilled out enough that it'll pop out. And then this should just fit kind of snug into the new one. So I pulled this one out. Here's the other one. So I'm going to get them in there and see what happens here. But I got that cowl off. I'm going to take this off here and swap it over. So this should separate. Same thing with these tabs here, these white tabs. You know, if you got black on black, you're definitely not going to see that. That's what we're separating to get this bottom part of this grill out once I get these bolts off. I'm gonna hurry up here. I'm still running out of daylight.